Hello and welcome to Just a Dog podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Joining me today is Elena Marchi, the creative force behind Pawtiqe, a unique fine art dog photography business here in London. What fascinates me about Elena's work is how she's created something that goes far beyond traditional pet photography. She treats every dog as a living masterpiece while simultaneously using her art to advocate for animal welfare, particularly sighthound rescue. Elena has this wonderful philosophy that dog is art, and she's currently working on an ambitious project photographing adopted greyhounds and galgos across London's boroughs. What I'm particularly interested in is exploring with Elena how art can change the way that we see dogs and what her lens reveals about our relationships with these animals that we claim to love.
It was such a nice introduction. Thank you.
My pleasure. Do you know what? I remember maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I stumbled upon you on Instagram and I was just mesmerized by your photographs. I love how beautiful, how elegant, and also how clutter-free they are. There doesn't seem to be much distracting you from the subject, which is usually these most beautiful, majestic animals. How did you get into photography and why specifically choose to photograph dogs?
I studied photography at university. It wasn't actually photography, it was photography and digital imaging. So it was more about the scientific part of it, as in testing lens systems and sensors and forensic photography, digital devices in general, printers, scanners, and anything that creates a digital image. But I did move to London specifically when I was 19 because I wanted to study photography because my dad was a amateur photographer. So when I was 15, we started like going around and taking pictures. Got my first camera, started using his film camera, and obviously at the time, I was 15, I couldn't really go anywhere on my own. So we used to take pictures of landscapes and our pets. We had 4 dogs and 3 cats at the time. So I was practicing on them. I really fell in love with the process of printing when I was at uni, and I decided to make that my career. And when I graduated, I went straight onto working for a fine art printing company in London, where we created wall art for galleries, hotels, interior designers, and photographers. So after 5 years there, we obviously had many pet photographers as clients, and I loved looking at the pictures and printing them big. And I actually realized only then that pet photography was a thing. So, because in Italy, where I'm from, definitely isn't. You will never spend that money on your dog or on your cat. And I started looking into the lab's clients to get portraits of my cats to have on my walls. But I'm very specific about interior design and what goes on the walls, especially since that's my background, wall art. So I couldn't find one that I really liked or that I would have up on my wall. So I decided to give it a try, and ultimately I really enjoyed taking pictures of my parents' dogs. And in the process of giving it a try, when you start photography and you specialize in a certain type of photography, you try and work out what your style is, because there's the same subject can be photographed by 10 photographers in 10 completely different ways. So I was trying to work out what my style was, and I noticed that when I was editing the pictures, I was like desaturating them more and more and more because they just looked wrong to me. So I just ended up with this black and white picture, and I was like, I can't build a business on black and white only. And then I just thought, maybe I can. Why not? And I decided to give it a try, and people liked it, surprisingly. When you leave a job that you really love to set up your own business that is quite different, to have that freedom, because setting up your business in the end, you're in control of everything. If you don't do what you really love, it's pretty pointless. I might as well just go back to my 9 to 5 job altogether, which is easier, safer, and I still love it. So if I can't do, I just decided to go for what I love to do and just go for it. And if people didn't like it, they didn't like it, and that was fine.
And luckily they did. They loved it.
Actually, they did. For now, they're liking
Amazing.
it.
Yeah, I think that they're almost like collector's pieces. Because they are. I was telling people that I'm going to be interviewing you today, and I don't really refer to you as a photographer, even though you do take photographs. I see you as an artist. And I know that those two words can be used interchangeably, but I'm leaning more towards the fine art side, I guess. Or that's my perception of the work that you create, because it is just so stunningly beautiful. I completely agree with you. They are art, and there's something about their eyes, there's something about the texture of their fur, there's something about the shape of their paws. Like, all of it together is just absolutely beautiful. So yeah, what an amazing job you have to be able to capture those things, those moments and those elements pretty much every day. So you don't have a dog at the moment, but if you could have your own dog, aside from fostering, because you just told me that you're about to start fostering tomorrow, do you have a favourite breed?
Well, I shouldn't say this because I have clients, but I actually do, as you might have guessed, is greyhounds. I actually did try and adopt one for about a year. I think it was 2017 or 16. And I was sadly rejected by 6 different charities because of all sorts of reasons. Most of them I didn't agree with at the time, such as I had stairs going up my flat, and greyhounds don't do stairs, or at least they don't know them. Most of them are new, like everything of our everyday life is completely new to them because they've just seen, the crate or the kennel and the racing track, and that's all they're familiar with. They haven't seen any other dog. But I think that's not really that big of a caveat to adoption, because I lived in central London at the time. I lived in Vauxhall, and for them it was too busy, and a greyhound would get spooked because I was renting, because I was working full time. So all these different reasons. And at the time, I remember, it was so sad, and I thought I could never get one while living in London, so I got my 2 cats. But the fostering is mostly, hopefully, a way to lead up to then a greyhound, because I don't want to throw them. My cats have never seen a dog before because they're indoor cats, and I have to test them with dogs, obviously, because the main thing with greyhounds is the cats cannot run away. Mm-hmm. If they slap them, it's fine. If they, stand their own ground, it's fine. If they run, even a dog, a greyhound that is considered cat friendly, will probably still chase them because they have that strong instinct. They have been trained to do that for so many years. So I was looking for a way of introducing them to dogs and getting them used to them. And I thought short-term fostering, and from a charity that I know has many small dogs, would be the best starting points. And they've been absolutely amazing because they've given me, as a first foster, a puppy, which is very easy to introduce to cats because they're very submissive. They're not really a threat to the cat, so they can be a bit more chilled, and hopefully slowly getting them used to other animals and dogs, to then at some point adopt the greyhound.
Oh, I really hope that it will happen for you. I know that feeling because, yeah, it's been years that I've wanted to have my own dogs. But flat living is not, at least where I was living before, it wasn't really conducive for dogs, purely because it wasn't really allowed on my lease anyway. which made things a little bit tricky. But I think things are changing in that area now. I think many landlords are becoming more open to their tenants having dogs, so that's positive, I guess.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
many people have dogs nowadays.
so many. So your photography sessions, how do you normally deal with it if you have a client whose dog is a bit nervous? How would you normally deal with that to reassure them or to create a safe space for them?
I would normally, so I would have before any session, before the client even books, I would have a consultation call with them, just to make sure that we're on the same page, that I have all the information that I need. We talk about what they want out of the session, what the dog is like, and most importantly, if they are scared of anything, and well, if they have any triggers, if they're reactive at all, and so that would give me some very important information on the day. Like sometimes I'd get asked not to wear a black hat if a dog is reactive to people wearing a black hat, or not to make certain noises, not to make certain moves. But what I do with any dog, whether they are nervous or reactive, when I first meet them for the shoot, I just completely ignore them. Um, Not look at them. I just go and talk to the owners and prepare them for it. It's like, I don't hate your dog. It's not personal. I really do want to cuddle all of them. But
All of the
just
dogs.
bear in mind, just be aware that I will come straight to you without looking at your dog, and that already gives the dog some space and puts them in a position where they can decide whether they want to interact with you or not. And it also, if they aren't shy and they do like to interact, to say hi to everybody, and they're used to everybody saying hi to them, that puts you in a position where they get curious. They're like, why are you not giving me attention? And they are more likely to look at you while you're taking the pictures and find you interesting, instead of being like, okay, yeah, I said hi, I don't care about you anymore.
Yeah.
And if the dog, when we start shooting, if the dog is still nervous, I always tend to work at the pace of the dog. We obviously make sure that we find a location that is suitable for them. So if they are scared of traffic or noises or scooters, we don't go to central London, or we do, but we always do at sunrise on weekends where there is not a soul around, which is so beautiful.
Yes, I've seen. I'm trying to remember that bridge near St. Paul's, with a beautiful view in the
The
background.
Millennium Bridge.
Millennium Bridge, that's it. Yeah, I saw that you were up at sunrise, and it just, yeah, I can't imagine. That must be quite spooky as well, not having a single soul on that bridge.
It is. I do get a bit worried sometimes when I like carrying a camera and it's 5 a.m. and there's nobody around, and I'm like, okay, no one can hear anything.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there are always like people and runners at any time. It's just incredible. Um, and then going back to the shoot, obviously going to the pace of the dog is very important, and reading the body language is very important. Whether they manifest any signs of distress, where if they're unsure, I always make sure I keep that monitored, and I adjust myself and give instructions to the owners as well, because the owners are also anxious before the shoot most of the time. It's like this performance anxiety that we all have, where you have the most perfectly behaved dog and you really want them to pose well, and you think that your dog has to sit perfectly, they have to actually be a model, like a human model, but they don't have to be. So you already arrive with that kind of expectation from your dog, and if they do not perform, you can get nervous because you think, oh, I'm messing this up. But that's just so not the case. And I know that in my pictures, the dogs look like they can hold a pose perfectly, but most of the time it's just me shooting so many pictures at once until that pose I want it happens, and then we can move on. But their body language is also very important, just giving them the space that they need and see what works for them. If we try something that makes them feel uncomfortable, a certain pose or on a certain spot, or even on the bridge, we're just going to move, adapt, leave them some space, leave them alone, if they're very nervous, I might just ask the owners to just keep them on the lead, sit still, and wait for the dog to look around. Simply look around, because they know how to be a dog. So if you don't ask them anything, that's when they actually give you probably the best poses, especially if they're nervous.
I see. And what do you think it is that it says about your clients that they are willing to, pay for these amazing photographs of their dogs? What do you think it communicates with regards to the importance of the dog in their life?
Well, it clearly does say what their priorities are. Not saying that if you don't pay for a photo shoot for your dog is not the center of your world, because I think it's a lot about what people value. And in the same way, I would never buy a designer bag because I don't really care. But I would spend double the money for a frame for my home, or for something different that I really value. So I don't necessarily think that indicates that they care a lot about their dog. It obviously does. But I think it does show that they are not afraid to show it, if it makes sense. Most of my clients do get all out to go on the walls at the end of the session. And that kind of shows.
It does.
Having it, especially if it's something big. I had like a 2-meter frames done, and a choice of showing it to everybody and having it hanging on the wall. I think it does say that they do love their dog to bits, and they do love a certain part of a certain aspect of my job or of my work, or art in general. And they're just not afraid to show it to whoever visits them, or shout it on social media, or just say, yes, I do love my dog, and I think my dog is a work of art, and I am not ashamed.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
What do you note about your clients and their relationships with their dogs during a shoot? You were saying before how sometimes a client can maybe be a little bit nervous because a dog is another sentient being. It's not like you can control it, and it's not like they speak human and we speak dog, etc. But in that relationship, when you get a bit nervous or you get a bit anxious, what does that relationship look like sometimes? Do clients tend to just go quiet? Do they defer to your expertise? Or what happens in those moments, I guess, when they're not getting the results that they're hoping for?
So sometimes they can get frustrated and they become a bit more firm with the dog, which is something I always try to stop. And it's actually the opposite. They stop listening to me when they're nervous. So if I ask them to do something, or to hold a pose and maybe hold a treat on one hand in a certain position, if they see that the dog is not giving them what they expect them what to give or to do on the moment, they would just try something else. They would just try everything they can to make that happen without listening to what I'm saying. And then we just need to bring the attention back to the whole experience and try in a different way. That's also quite an important part of the job, actually, to manage the humans so that they don't get stressed and pass the stress on to the dog, because the dogs can sense that. And the more if they refuse to do something that is fairly easy, because I never give very specific or very difficult instructions that only a very well-trained dog could do. If they can't, it means there's not something wrong, but it means there's something needs changing, and giving them more jobs is not gonna work. It's just gonna confuse them, overwhelm them, and they're just gonna stop working for us altogether.
Yeah. Actually, you just reminded me. I was speaking to a psychologist the other day, and she was telling me that when people tend to be nervous or anxious, or kind of like quite tense in a given moment, a stressful situation, for example, apparently the frontal lobe of the brain stops working. It shuts down. So
It does.
yeah, so I think sometimes that kind of would explain why they would get more firm. It's interesting to me that would be a default behavior the firmness, as opposed to perhaps the complete opposite way.
Yeah,
And how do you get the results that you're looking for, or the desired behavior, in a way where you can be sure that your dog is listening to your needs and can deliver on that? It's very, very hard to stay in control, isn't it? So it's really cool
it
that
is,
you.
especially if they get firmer and the dog is just like, I'm not gonna do it. It's just not gonna do it.
Yeah,
In those
especially with
situations,
greyhounds.
it's just best to reset. Oh yeah, greyhounds are a whole different story.
Yeah,
But
greyhounds don't do what they don't want to do, right?
greyhounds they're more like cats than dogs, to be honest.
Are
I
they?
think the best, at least what I do and what I think is the best. And obviously, different photographers and behaviorists do different things. But for me, it's just reset completely, change the scene, without letting them know it's not working. You just say, okay, let's move on. We just move to a different spot, try something different, let the dog have a little walk up and down, have a sniff, let them decompress a little and start again afresh, completely forgetting what we were trying to do. We're not doing, if it's not working, we're not doing it. It's as simple as that. There are no set rules. I don't try, I never try and get a very specific shot and try until it's done. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we find a new one that can, depending on the dog.
How long do your photo sessions usually last? Are they quite different, one to the next?
Usually, the standard ones between 1 and 2 hours. Simply depending again on the dog. When a dog is done, they're done, and they make it very clear when they're done. They do not have a very long attention span. It feels like you see them. They can probably run for 3 or 4 hours and not be tired, but having to focus on us or on their owner to sit or look this way or look that way is like a lot of concentration involved. And usually after an hour, they just make it very clear that they don't want to, that they're done, they're bored, they want to go home, they want to go run. And when that happens, they can just go and run and probably sleep for the rest of the day. That's usually what happens
Yeah.
after a session. They're so tired emotionally.
I could
They
imagine,
just sleep.
yeah. These humans are so confusing. What do they want from me?
I know. I said, this is a very weird walk we're on right now. What's happening?
Exactly. Exactly, exactly. So I've noticed that a lot of your photographs have the most incredible backdrop of historical buildings in London. Why is that?
Gosh, I'm not sure. I don't necessarily want them to shout London. I don't think. It's more about the architecture of London is so interesting and so beautiful, and the heritage as well is so incredible. There are so many spots and so many different locations I go to that to me is more about the form and the texture and the light, as opposed to if this is London
Mm-hmm.
in a in an obvious way. It's not something that I try and do. Locations are usually selected because they work in terms of lines and shadows and, as I said, textures, and they do draw the attention to the dog, even if you don't know where they are. It happens to be, I think they do scream London because London is so, there is so much variety, and they do still give that atmosphere that, for who lives in London, we do know what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And what having a dog, I mean, I don't really know what having a dog in London it feels like because I don't have one. But going around with dogs or living your life in London with your dog, um, we all know what that feels like. And Londoners don't often go to the touristic places either. They wouldn't go to see Buckingham Palace. I don't remember the last time I've been to Covent Garden, for example. But those little details, I feel, and those buildings do make us all feel at home, and where we spend our life and every day, with or without the dog,
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I agree. I used to live in London. I lived in East London in
Why did you
Hackney.
leave?
Do you know what? I ask myself that all the time. From the moment I left London, I missed London. And so every single time I go back, yesterday I went to London, for example, it always reminds me of that Oscar Wilde quote where he says, if you're tired of London, you're tired of life. I love going to London. But having a dog in London, I imagine, will be really difficult. And I know that plenty of people do have them anyway. But, there are not that many green spaces around. So for wide open, free running, I think in East London, there's a couple of places. I think in West London, there's a couple of places. But people tend to go to the same places for their dogs because it's not easy to just quickly drive to the countryside and then back again every single day, maybe twice a day. Going to the greyhounds and the galgos, what started your interest in these dogs?
It has been. I've always loved greyhounds. I can't remember exactly when it started, but when I decided I was ready to get a dog, for some reason I fell in love with them. And I actually thought, and I was very naive, that I thought I could get a puppy. And my parents had an Italian greyhound at the time. They still have her. She's still there. She's quite old, but she's still there. And I started researching, and I found out that there are no puppies because all the puppies are racers. So then I started digging into it, and I opened the Pandora box. There used to be the dogs that would make me turn on the streets all the time. I don't know what it is about them. So gentle, so quiet. So they have this presence, and at the same time, they look so sad. Like many people say, they have this walk that it's more, it resembles a horse in a way. And I started learning and reading, and I came across what happens in the racing industry, and I started trying to adopt one. So that actually opened even more doors and more boxes.
Yeah.
And really, the adoption process made me, I'm not gonna lie, very angry with the whole system and adoption in the UK mainly, which is why I started trying to find out if there was a way to adopt one from abroad. And I know that there are many dog owners that have gotten their dog from abroad, not just greyhounds, but all sorts of breeds. And I did, as a protest, I did a charity project in, I think, 4 years ago for Underdog International, which, oh, they're so good. They do rehome dogs from mainly, I think, is Romania, Greece, Cyprus, I think some from Spain, and they have this beautiful educational program for kids as well, to teach them about dogs and empathy and other, leading beings. They're very, very good. And what I found about them is that they do rehome happily in London, in flats, where whether you have children, cats, other dogs, whether you work full time, part time, whether you're in urban or residential, like busy areas. So I want to do this project because I want to show that it's actually possible to have a rescue dog if you live in a busy area of London. And I went around and photographed 60 rescue dogs in 60 days in their homes in London. And most of them were from Underdog, and most of them were in flats, in like all families that had the same characteristics that I had. So I'm very grateful for what greyhounds kind of brought to my work, my life, even if I don't have one. And just learning about all these things and just giving you a reason to investigate. And it's a different type of awareness, but I think that it's still thanks to them in a way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I understand that, because once you lift the lid on these things, it's an absolute minefield. And I think unless you have an interest in any of the kind of issues that dogs face on a daily basis, you would just go about your life completely oblivious to the issues that they face. In particular with greyhounds. So I live near Brighton, and there is still a racetrack in Brighton. And I went there a couple of months ago with my camera, and I went to interview people. And yeah,
how did that
in
go?
person. Actually, let me start with a catalyst for that. So I used to do these interviews where I would just kind of walk up to the general public walking their dogs along the seafront, and I would just ask them questions about their dog. And there was one man who had a greyhound, and the greyhound stood there and its leg was shaking like this. And I had never seen that before. So I asked him, I said, oh, what's going on with its leg? And he was telling me, oh, the dog is an ex-racing dog. But they've nicknamed it his Elvis move, or something to that effect. And so then he was telling me how he has another greyhound who's still racing. And in my mind, I was like, what? Like, this doesn't make sense. Why would you rescue a greyhound but then also have a greyhound racing? And he said, no, you're mistaken. I didn't rescue the greyhound. The greyhound was rehomed. Yes, because the greyhound was a working dog, and it's no longer a working dog. It's not rescued, it retired. And so I don't know, I felt really conflicted. And then I also realized I don't know anything. I don't, like, how can I have an opinion on anything? How can I feel this conflict if I don't actually understand what I'm feeling the conflict for? So yeah, I went to go have a look at the dogs there, and the environment that they stay in when they're up for rehoming, and spoke to the caretaker there, and then also went into go watch the greyhounds racing, which again felt really conflicting, because you're sitting there, and although you don't pay for a ticket to go there, you kind of look around and you're just like, why is this happening? So I sat really, really close to the boxes, basically, where they kind of like, I guess, shoot the gun or whatever, and they like release the dogs. And I found it quite distressing how they would pick the dogs up and then shove them into this box, and then all of a sudden, yeah, the box would open and they'd just be running down the track. So long story short, I learned so much from those interviews, and I learned that basically they're all syndicates. People invest a lot of money into these dogs, but it's not like one person owns or is responsible for one dog. Obviously that can happen, but I learned there are large groups who own a small percentage of a dog. Multiple owners paying for the vet's bills, paying for the transportation, paying for the trainers, paying for all of those things, hydrotherapy. But then if the dog wins, they split all of the money.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah. So
and if they don't win?
And if they don't win, well, I was told at the time that they lose more often than not. So these people just do it for the joy of racing and community and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's still very hard to connect the dots and understand why this is actually happening. But I also understand the perspective of, these dogs love running. And so around a racetrack, it's more safe, considering it's not in the woods or the forest where maybe they can break a leg over a piece of wood or a stick or a hole in the ground, that kind of thing. So I get that. But then giving that sense of purpose where they just run until they're tired. And there was another thing that was really interesting, how these people, I feel, connect or attach these experiences to their childhood. So it's something that happened when they were growing
Yeah.
up. So their sense of, oh, when I was a child, my parents used to take me here and this is what we used to do. So they have a very happy memory attached to the experience. And stopping racing means taking away a core memory for them in some ways. So it's
Yeah.
in those I'm completely against greyhound racing, or pretty much most, if not all, forms of entertainment where animals are used, especially for profit. Completely draw a very, very hard line. But at the same time, I can understand why these things continue. It's very similar. I was having
Yeah.
a conversation with a friend the other day. They went to Morocco and they paid to ride camels because the kids really wanted to. And I was
Yeah.
appalled. I was like, how can you do that? They walk around all day and they got these wires on their face, and it's not good. And that's how the cycle continues, because people attach happy memories to these
And
experiences.
it's also about education, I guess, because I was one of the kids that was put on a camel by my parents when I was like 5, because it was just, you don't know what's happening. And even with greyhound racing, I had some friends that were saying, "Oh yeah, my dad used to take me to those," and I was like, "Are you kidding?" I was like, "No, it was like you don't know what happens to the dogs." And to be fair, obviously things have changed in the past, I think, decade, where because there was so much more awareness raised about greyhounds. So it was a big, big thing. I think in the at the beginning of the 20th century, or during the 20th century anyway, and until the early 70s. And and then obviously animal protection groups started coming in and trying to raise awareness and protest about the whole racing industry, which is where some new measures were put in place and more controls and, um, in general, more rules for the welfare of the dogs, which doesn't still doesn't make it right or acceptable. Because if you think about it, these dogs are a commodity. They are bred. They were brought into this world to have for a purpose, to run and win money. And if they don't, they are discarded. So they are brought to this world thinking, we try. If it doesn't work, we can just give them away or euthanize them or whatever. It's literally, if it doesn't work, we're going to have another litter and then another litter and then another litter, and one can be good. They're just disposable. And that it just puts a strain on, yeah, you retire them, you give them to a kennel. These kennels are run by volunteers. They have so many dogs every year. And many of the dogs that they receive have long-term health issues as well, if they haven't broken a leg before, if they haven't been euthanized because of an injury, and racers, trainers didn't want to pay for the surgery,
Yep.
for the treatment, and even if they do win and they don't get discarded because they're not fast enough, their racing life is still up to 4 years old, so they get bred to last 4 years and then given up, which is just so wrong. It's just the reason why they are brought up is this, and it's just so wrong for me, obviously, for me. And I do agree on the rescue over the retired, but I do understand why they say retired, because some trainers, apparently, are actually quite nice. They do care about their dogs. But there is still this like recycling dogs over and over again just because they bring happiness to someone and they will have a nice memory of their childhood.
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah.
especially for such a animal loving country? I just don't understand it.
Absolutely.
And what happens in Spain is a whole different story. We'll probably get there.
Oh, we will get to Spain. We will get to Spain. But yeah, going to the greyhounds, I think, yeah, the core memory, I see the reason why this continues. And also, a lot of people have been passed down the idea that a dog is just a dog. So, in the pecking order between humans and animals, humans obviously come first, and a dog is an animal, so they maybe come last or later, further along the line. So in many cases, they are treated less than. But on the flip side, just to be fair and have a balanced perspective, there are people who adore their dogs who still race them. And there are dogs who really enjoy racing. It's just really hard to know when these things happen in an, I don't even know if there is a way to say, in an honourable way or with the best intentions. It's really hard to know, and it's very hard to also tar everyone with the same brush. But in general, I do agree with you. It just shouldn't be happening, and dogs should not be recycled because it strips them of their uniqueness as individual dogs and kind of just groups them together as, oh, okay, racing dog.
Yeah, always fast. They were born to run.
Exactly.
Yeah, they are built, yes, to run for speed. That's what they're built for. Every breed has their purpose. It's just the number of greyhounds that get recycled and they get on the track and they get injured, and you just go move on to the next one.
Exactly.
They do leave. I understand running after flush toy, fine. Living your life in a crate without having, they are more socialized with humans because they do have antlers, so they are used to humans, and but not knowing any other breed, any other species, they don't really have a happy dog life, pet life. It's just you're here until you have to train or run, and then you go back into your box, and then you train and run again, and then you go back into your box. And there's so many of them, with exceptions, obviously, as we said. But I bet that I haven't spoken to any of them, but I bet that those trainers and owners, they do have greyhounds as their pets and raise them, don't really mind too much if they lose or win. They probably won't get rid of them if they lose, I assume, and I hope, if they are a pet.
Yeah, I hope so too.
But I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I know this is the thing, isn't it? There's so many different surfaces to scratch. Because there are so many different breeds, and other dogs have issues too. You've got Labradors, in the hunting world. Just a few weeks ago, I went to the Gun Dog Challenge, and I witnessed quite a few distressing things, and I thought to myself, wow, like everywhere you go, there's an element of cruelty to these animals. And in that particular case, it was a whimpering dog. A dog was just making those noises out of excitement, and they were smacked in the face, basically, because these types of dogs get disqualified if they make a noise before the gun goes off and they go search for these items. So these, I think they're called flares, I'm not sure. But anyways, everywhere I go and everywhere I look, I see something that kind of is not as one would hope it would be. But I also see that a lot of that is systemic. It's very much systemic. Like, people don't even bat an eyelid. It's so normal. And so it takes people like us kind of looking from the outside in to say, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. But too often we hear back, oh, it's just a dog, or it's a working dog. What do you expect? That kind of thing. And it's just like, no, it shouldn't be that way. Surely not. But these things, there is progress being made, slowly but surely. Yeah,
small wins.
That's true. Small wins, exactly. So moving on to the galgos, I mean, it's like one grim thing to another, but these are realities, and these dogs are experiencing a certain lifestyle or life that is maybe, depending on your perspective, but from my perspective, certainly less than they deserve. So I became aware of galgos because of your Instagram page. And I remember that day actually doing some research because I was like, galgos? What's a galgo? I had no idea. And so I had a look, and then I realised, oh, it's a breed more commonly known in Spain. And then I went down the rabbit hole, and it got very grim very
And what
quickly,
you
and
find, yeah.
I cried my eyes out. And it got to a point where I ended up calling a friend of mine who is married to a Spaniard, because I needed answers. I was like, how is this happening? And she actually said to me, take a break from social media because you're too attached to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like, I'll find out, I'll ask. And he didn't know very much about what goes on, because apparently, again, it's very different culturally from the north of Spain to the south of Spain.
Yeah, it's
So
mostly the south, yeah.
for those people who may or may not know anything about galgos, as I didn't, what do you know about galgos that you would like more people to know?
So I had the same, I had like a similar conversation a few times actually, when talking about the project. I was like, oh yeah, greyhound and galgos. And even some friends were like, oh yeah, greyhounds, like galgos are just, they just race like the greyhounds. And I was like, no, 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 no. And no, 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 that's not the case. That's not the case at all. Um, so galgos are also called Spanish greyhounds and are a breed of hunting dogs, and as greyhounds, one of the most ancient breeds. And they used to be, at the time, same as greyhounds, they used to be reserved for royalty and noble families and who had land up until I think the 19th century. And even like no, not everyone could have one. They were quite special dogs, and killing one would be considered as bad as killing a person. And you see now what how the situation has changed. So at the moment there are the use for hunting in Spain, hunting as a sport, not hunting for to actually get um food.
Food or resources, yeah.
Is an actual like competitive sport, and in Spain you can like hunt in I think 80% of the land. There is like this, they can hunt essentially anywhere, and is not regulated at all. Most hunters aren't registered nor licensed. I was reading about it and I watched a documentary which is beautiful, and I can give you the link for it. Beautiful, it will make you cry because it will, but
Yes,
it's very
please.
informative. There's like only 2% of the hunters are actually licensed and registered, and most of the licenses are issued to well, quite a few to disabled people, because they just do it for the numbers and to keep it going and to keep the funds going, because if there are still hunters there will still be land to hunt on, but most of them aren't registered. And galgos, being working dogs, are not protected by the Spanish law as other dogs are and as other animals are. So most of these hunters, the owners that are called galgueros, do sometimes have other dogs as their pets, and they keep them in the home, but not the galgos are for them just considered as objects. And they are bred. They breed so many of them again to get the fastest one. It's such a it's so radicated in the culture, in the rural and like village culture, that for them having a winning dog is just an honor. Isn't They don't even make money out of them. It's more about the glory of having the winning galgo. So they do breed them. They have litters, and when they have litters, they have like 8 puppies, and see if there is one that's fast enough. And the difference between the greyhounds and the galgos is that once they're not useful, or they're not fast enough, or they don't perform, they don't win, they get disposed of in the most horrible ways. If they're lucky, they are handed into a rescue or to a kennel, who, however, well, we get there, but they can be handed in. Less lucky, but still lucky, I think. They get shot and killed on the spot and buried, and that's the end of their life. even from young age, when they just decide that they're never going to be as fast as they need them to be. And they stab them, burn them. Most of them are hung, and they just kill that way. I have a friend who is from Sevilla, which is the area where, in the south of Spain, where a lot of this happens. And she was saying she's also vegan, so she kind of knows a lot about everything. Essentially, she has she's quite well informed. She used to go around the countryside around Sevilla and find them hung by trees, and you even find fields where they just get the killing fields. They're just covered in bones of galgos. Sometimes they just tie them to trees or in caves and just let them starve to death, or abandon them, which is how most of them get found and rescued. They just find them on the streets, and they can be run over, or when they do get abandoned, they get beaten up and or abandoned in a land that they don't know, so that they cannot come home. So they're very difficult to catch, also for that reason, because they have been taught to fear humans, and they're very shy. They're so gentle and so beautiful, and most of them have been they have been quite traumatized because they're not really kept very well in general, unless they're winners. If they're winners, they might have a couple of years of victories. I'm not sure how long they race them for, but they recycle them very, very quickly. And it's just so sad that no one does anything about it. I mean, there are obviously groups and charities, and they're trying to change the law. But as I talk to Spanish friends, they all know about it.
Yeah, but this is the thing. I always, and again, you don't want to kind of generalize or stereotype, but my perception, because I have lots of Spanish friends, is that they're really, really forward-thinking and very open-minded people. Some of the most well-educated people I know are Spanish. So, yeah. Oh, gosh, it's so hard, isn't it? It's so hard tying the reasons.
I didn't want to make everybody sad.
No, you don't want to do that, but at the same time, it's kind of like reverse engineering and understanding the psychology behind it. Why is it happening? Why does it continue to happen? They know what's going on right in their backyard, but things are taking a long time to change. So anyways, without dwelling on that too much, I think the important thing is, if anyone's listening to this, maybe do your own research and inform yourself, because it is quite horrific, and go into it really, full well knowing that you will see things that you don't want to see. So your project came about as a result of what you learned about the galgos and greyhounds and sighthounds in general. What do you hope to achieve with your project?
So, because we just said that obviously it's quite difficult to hear about these things and to talk about these things and to see, because there are some very horrific pictures out there, and to raise awareness. I feel like if you show those images, people are going to turn away. My mum did. My mum was like, "Oh, this beautiful greyhound, this beautiful documentary. I'm watching it." She's like, "I don't want to watch it. I don't want to see." And I did. I did have trouble sleeping after, for a few days after that. The book is a different way of. It's something that I hope people will want to look at, and will portray these dogs still deliver the message, but make it something that people might want to share, look, buy, instead of turning away and looking at a photograph of a mistreated dog and never look at it again.
Yeah.
And I was so happy to see that, even with the pictures that I posted on social media recently, with the sessions that we've done so far, they have been shared by so many and so many comments, and that just makes me so happy that is something that will help others share what's happening without making anyone uncomfortable. And we're also obviously galgo wise, greyhound pictures aren't as distressing in terms of like injuries and what they go through, but we're hoping to show that these dogs aren't commodities, they are disposable, and they are beautiful, these beautiful creatures, they're gentle, they're regal, they were considered regal at the time.
Yeah.
They in ancient Egypt, they were just like almost divine creatures, and now we're just treating them like objects, so they've gone from one extreme to the other, and we're hoping to try to show them and portray them as the other extreme, as they were actually like as part of their past, and they are part of the big picture. And we're obviously using London's beautiful locations wherever they are. I just try to find the most beautiful ones and the most majestic ones, because I think they deserve to stand on them and to be on the pedestal again, and showing at the same time that these dogs can also thrive in urban environments and even in busy cities like London. Something I hear a lot from friends or from those who don't know greyhounds very much, just say, when I say I want to adopt a greyhound, they're like, oh, but they need a lot, they don't have a garden, they need a lot of space, they need to run. Like that's actually the opposite. They're called the 45 miles an hour couch potatoes, because they do sleep. That's why I also said they're more similar to cats. They do sleep 20 hours a day. They are made for sprints, as opposed to galgos. They are more like for endurance, because they're supposed to chase hares for a long time, actual hares. And they are actually the breed that is more suited to live in a flat, because they just want to sleep. They can't, they want soft surfaces because they have such a thin skin and it's so bony. And they're made in they have this very awkward bodies. They don't even lie down, most of them, properly, greyhounds. So they don't even want to sleep on the floor. They can't even sit. Like when I have photo shoots with greyhounds, I am never asking if they can sit, because they won't. I'm never asking if they can lay down, because I know that they're gonna lie down only on soft beds. They're never gonna lie down on concrete. So even showing them in a different environment that isn't rural or like huge spaces, countryside parks, we try and show them in urban spaces, and always as still as possible, as a contrast to the history of running and racing and hunting. We just want to have them as part of the scene, almost as sculptures. If the images do convey that, I'm not sure.
Absolutely, they do.
I still have to take more than half of them, but it's just there was someone that commented recently that the dog looked like a mystical creature in the city in King's Cross, and I was like, yes, that's what we're trying to do. Yes.
Yes, they look otherworldly. They do look like statues, these monuments of these majestic creatures. And I just think it's absolutely fascinating how you slowing down to create art with these beautiful dogs has the ability to change perspectives. Because like you were saying before, like it's too distressing to see anything other than their beauty, right? Especially if you call yourself a dog lover. You kind of like, you know that all these untoward things are bubbling at the surface. You know that they're there, but because you have this deep love for these creatures, you just can't see it. You can't look at it. You don't want to be exposed to it. It physically hurts to see
Yeah,
things,
it does.
see these creatures hurt. It's awful. How do you, in this process, stay soft around the edges? Because seeing this type of treatment of dogs specifically has the ability to make a person quite cynical and perhaps a little bit bitter. How do you keep the softness around your edges?
I hope I'm keeping it. I think that's also why I love working with dogs so much. It was incredible to see how many greyhound owners, galgo owners, even dog owners, or even people who don't have a dog, were happy to jump in and help. And they shared, they donated, and they tried they read, they just tried to learn more about them. And it has been quite difficult knowing what's happening with the dogs, and also with the project, trying to get permits and trying to get different sites to help us raise funds and make the project, bring the project to life. And there have been very tough moments, I have to say, where I thought I'm just not gonna go through with this because it's been so difficult and nobody cares. And then you receive those messages and those emails and those calls from complete strangers that are offering to help, and that just gives you that hope and reassurance, and it's just what makes you want to keep going, because those are actually the people that you need to reach in the end. And what we're doing, or at least what I do, is for those people, and try and cut out the noise as much as possible, and accept that you can't be, no one's ever gonna, not everyone is gonna agree with you on anything, and there's always gonna be some ugliness in the world, but there are so many people that are silently trying to change things, and that makes me so grateful and so happy. In general, what we see around and what I've seen with this project has been absolutely amazing.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it is reassuring to know that humans have this great capacity for change, and I think that that remains at the back of my mind, because there were times where, and potentially still, and will continue to be moments where I will be ignorant and I wouldn't know that I'm being
Yeah.
ignorant. There's so much to learn about so many different things. So I think it's really important to try, I guess, and show compassion or kindness in the moments where it's the most difficult to. But I think your book, I think we keep talking about your project, but we haven't actually mentioned what it is.
Have we not?
No.
Probably not.
No, so please tell us.
Well, it's a book. It's a fine art photography book, and titled, working title actually, I think, Greyhounds and Galgos of London. I am thinking of changing it to something like London Silent Hounds, just because of the idea that not many people know about them, and they're just like so quiet and just move around town with like all this baggage, and nobody knows about them or about what's happening to them. Definitely galgos, not very few people know. And we are taking portraits of greyhounds and galgos around London, adopted, and one that hadn't been adopted yet, but he now has. He was adopted the day after the photo shoot, to try and show, as we said, try and raise awareness, and also raise funds for Project Galgo, which is such a wonderful charity that rehomes, rehabilitates, and educates about and these dogs from Spain, Spanish hunting dogs in general, and also Salukis from Bahrain. And they're just so wonderful. They take them into their care. They transport them to the UK, into foster homes, and then find them homes. So all the models have participated with they paid a participation fee that has gone to the charity, and the proceeds from the book would also go to the charity. So we're trying to raise awareness and also help dogs as fast as quickly as we can in the meantime.
Yeah. Well,
And
raising
it has been
awareness,
so much fun,
spreading
as
the
well,
news.
I have to say. I
Are
feel like
you? You're having
it
fun?
was also a great excuse to just spend as much time with greyhounds as possible.
I don't blame you. They're amazing creatures,
I
aren't
cannot have
they?
my
They're
own
quite
one, but I can hang
funny.
out with them.
Say again.
They are. I'm actually trying to like depict them as these beautiful, elegant creatures, and they are, but they're not at the same time. They're just like very quirky and weird, and sometimes it looks like they don't know how to be a dog.
Yeah,
They're just so funny.
they really are. They're funny little
It's
creatures. They
huge
can
dogs.
be.
They're so gentle.
Yeah. Well, it's
Next
amazing
book,
seeing
we'll
them
do the
sleep.
quirky one.
Well, that's really good. Offer another contrast. I really think that I haven't seen the book yet. I've seen some photos that you've posted, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to the book. If anybody wants to, help spread the news with regards to your project or help put a pledge in, they can find your project where?
So my project at the moment is on my website, and we have a Kickstarter to help us with the permits, the photography permits. That ends on the 8th of July, though. And if anyone wants to help, they can put a pledge in for pre-order a book, for example, or book a calendar and a print, or just make a general donation if they don't want to have a book or anything and I just want to help out. Just a
Support
small
the project.
£5, £10 donation really goes a long way.
Yeah.
Mostly they can access it from my website that explains everything about the project as well, or even just helping. It would be very, very helpful to just simply make a donation to one of the many greyhound and galgo charity around. I myself sponsor a galgo in Spain, and it's literally just £10 a month, and that does really help them a lot, I hope. But in theory, it does help them a lot, just with vet bills, buying food, just looking after the day to day of every dog. They have over 300, I believe, in their care, and there are so many more shelters. So that's also a way of helping.
Yeah. And when after the book gets published, will people be able to buy it separately, maybe from your website or somewhere else?
They will, and I'm not sure where it's going to be just yet. Definitely from my website. I was thinking of trying putting it on Amazon as well. But I haven't figured that out just yet. But they can definitely purchase a book if they want to once it's released on the 1st of February, which is World Galgo Day, which marks the end of the hunting season in Spain. So on this specific day, it's when they start getting rid of all the hunting dogs because the hunting season is closed and they don't need them anymore. So there's urge, and like shelters are completely full, and dogs are found everywhere in the most horrible conditions. So we're aiming to release the book then, if everything goes well, sooner if we can, but that's I think that's the latest date. And
Yeah,
you'll
for more
see,
impact.
especially on social medias, they'll be full of posts about the day everywhere, the distressing ones, I think.
Yeah, I remember this year. It kind of caught me off guard a little bit. So I had a visceral reaction, somewhat like your mum. Um, so I
Yeah.
guess, do you have anyone in the media interested, or are you in touch with anyone in the media who can kind of help raise awareness via your book?
Sadly not. I am going to try and get a press release out as soon as the book is released, because I did try when I was looking for models, but it wasn't very successful. I will also need a celebrity slash authority for the foreword of the book. So if I do manage to get someone that could really help,
I have a few
getting more eyeballs
suggestions
on
for you.
the project. I have
Yeah.
a couple of names in mind. I just need to find a way to
Nice.
reach them because they are
Okay.
not easy to reach,
Who are you looking
obviously.
for? Tell me.
Well, we have the patron of the charity, which should be quite easy, which is Nick Cave. Um, as London and dog supporter, and also I am a big fan. Ricky Gervais is on the list. Um, Twiggy is also on the list. Greyhound supporter,
Amazing.
she is.
Okay.
I was looking at all the Greyhound supporters, and I think she's a sponsor for someone, but that's she's probably last on the list. Oh gosh, I can't remember the last name. I'm sorry, but I do
Whose
have
last name?
Ricky Gervais as past attempt because I also because he lives in London and I know he has spoken about greyhounds before, and he's a huge animal charity and dog lover and supporter. So we'll see, and also it will be lots of eyeballs on the project if that had to happen.
Yeah. Well, fingers and toes crossed for you.
There's a few more names, but I'll start from those and see how that goes. Or I'll write it myself in the end, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. You have to speak them into the universe, right? You never know who's listening. This is the thing. So, if anyone is interested in helping Elena with her project, please get in touch. What is your website and where people
Is
find you?
www dot obviously Pawtiqe.com. Pawtiqe, which is Pawtiqe, no U in Pawtiqe, because that's usually misspelling. And contact name on there, same name for socials, and I do reply. Usually, I'm quite quick at replying, am I?
Yeah, you
If
are
anyone has
actually.
questions or just wants to reach out, just a social direct message can do, or just emails if anyone's interested and wants to help or wants more information or be pointed in the right direction. Um,
Mhm. I will include links, to your social media and to your project on Kickstarter and to your website. And my final question for you: what do you think we can learn from dogs?
from dogs, well, what I have learned from dogs personally, I know that compassion and unconditional love are some of the things that we all learn from dogs, and something that we do talk about a lot. From a personal level, what I've learned, not from dogs, but from working with dogs, is um, patience. It's it's the one skill I think that you need as a dog photographer, and is something that we all need in our everyday life, and that's what I've learned from dogs in order to communicate with them and to keep them happy and to just slow down, and in any area of life, but specifically when working with the dog, learning to slow down in order to read them and give them space without expecting anything from them in particular. It's something that has really changed my approach to everyday life, I think, and it's something that we can all apply to humans, dogs, ourselves, and definitely something that has come from the dogs because it's just necessary, and just let it be.
Let it be. Exactly. Yeah. I think they help keep us present in a moment, teach us patience, and just in general slowing down. I agree with you. Um, Lena, I want you to know I'm so grateful for you taking the time and taking a chance on this podcast, spending an hour and a bit with me. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate everything that you do. Keep going, and I look forward to following your journey online.
Thank you very much.